In this video, I'm going to talk to you about how you can get your own copy of SQL Server 2016 absolutely free. And we'll talk a little bit later on in the course about how to install this step by step. And this is all designed so that you can get some hands-on experience with SQL Server 2016 as we move through the course together here. Here's the bottom line. The best way to learn any technology requires two main steps. The first one, and this is the one that we kind of see as boring sometimes, and that is where we have to kind of chalk talk just a little bit. We have to understand the what about the technology. What problem is it solving? What is it here to do? And then why? Why do we have this technology? Why is this an issue? And why does this particular technology functionality solve our problem? And then the ultimate is how. How do we implement this? How do we set it up? How do we configure it? How do we actually utilize it? And so once you understand all that, then comes the all-important step two, where learning really accelerates, and that is hands-on experience. You've just got to get your hands dirty. You got to jump out there and start trying to implement whatever it is you're learning. Get those bizarre error messages, get those frustrating little nitpicking type mistakes, and correct those. And a lot of times, the issues that you bump into there are related to other technologies and other things that you do on the functionality you're working on, and it just accelerates the learning, and it just gives you that good old real-world experience. All the installation and code examples that you're going to see me do in this course are going to be executed using the SQL Server Developer Edition for 2016. Now, here's the main thing that I want you to get about SQL Server 2016 Developer Edition. It's absolutely free to Visual Studio Dev Essential members. Now, this is a program that Microsoft has out there for their developers, and you may have noticed as we continue to move along the timeline of life here, the lines between developer and administrator and all these things continue to blur. Administrators are now out there doing PowerShell. They're out there doing Transact SQL. They're writing a lot of different code for a lot of different reasons, scripting. And so we're all kind of developers at some level. And being a member of Visual Studio Dev Essential just really helps you understand Microsoft's development platforms, the tools, where they're headed in the future. And so I would strongly encourage you to go ahead and join. Joining this is absolutely free, doesn't cost you anything. They are going to ask you some general information. You'll have to provide an email, your name, and some information about yourself and what you're doing in IT and where you want to go, what you're interested in. Trust me, I've been a member for a while. They don't spam you with a whole lot of junk. Nobody's calling me on the phone, anything like that. And there's also newsletters that you can connect to and get on a regular basis. And there's some really good information in there. Okay, all that's up to you, but you can join Dev Essential and then just get SQL Server 2016 download for absolute free. Now, you can also use the evaluation edition in this course if you've got any reservation or object in any way to Visual Studio Dev Essential. You don't have to do that by any stretch of the imagination. You can just grab the evaluation edition of SQL Server 2016, and the evaluation edition is going to run full featured for 180 days, 6 months, and you can do everything that you see here. The functionalities are identical because keep in mind, the evaluation edition is just a kind of a lockdown, time-limited edition of the enterprise version of SQL Server. Developer is also basically enterprise edition. It is just not licensed for live production SQL servers. Now, one thing I do want to warn you about, though, this is real world. If you get developer or the evaluation edition and you start to learn on it and you're getting hands-on, be very, very careful. Some of the really cool features of SQL Server are only available in the Enterprise Edition, and that's pricey out there in the real world. A lot of the really cool ideas and things that you develop up and come up with will not run on a standard edition or like an express edition of SQL Server. So just kind of always be cognizant of the features that you're using and whether or not they're available outside of the Enterprise Edition. Here is where we're actually going to get down to it. SQL Server 2016 Developer and Evaluation Editions can be downloaded from Microsoft's website. Big surprise there. Just go to www.microsoft.com/SQL. That's the SQL homepage. Somewhere on that page, you will most likely see a link about try it now, and you'll see probably a link about the SQL Server 2016 Developer for free offer that's going on. So just go out there and take a look. If you don't see anything that you can discern like that, just go to the top right to the search bar, type in SQL Server 2016 Developer or Evaluation, whichever you're interested in, and you should be able to find a link to where you can download this. Downloading SQL Server 2016 is going to involve three main steps, and they're all quite painless. The first thing you're going to do, once you find that download link out on the website, you're going to click it and you're going to download an executable file, a .exe file. Just pay attention to where you download that. You're then going to run that executable file. Then that's going to allow us to download the actual ISO image that we want to install SQL Server 2016. Now, I'm going to strongly encourage you to go ahead and take the hit on waiting and bandwidth and all that. Go ahead and download this ISO file, somewhere around 3 gigabytes. You can just copy this ISO file to a thumb drive. You can copy it to a network location, and then you can use this to install SQL Server 2016. Like for me, I've got a couple of laptops, got a desktop, and whichever one I'm working on at the time the most, I can just simply grab this ISO, right click it, mount it, install SQL Server 2016 painlessly. You can also use the ISO as a image source for virtual machines and install it in virtual environments very quickly as well. So step one, we're going to download this executable file. If you're downloading SQL Server 2016 Developer, you're going to find that when you go through this process that you have downloaded to your local machine a file called SQL Server 2016 SSEI dev.exe. If you're getting the evaluation edition, you're going to get SQL Server 2016 SSEI eval. One of those files, whichever one you chose, is going to be out there wherever you downloaded it. Pay attention to where you put this thing. And notice it's only 3 or 4 megabytes. And on a fast connection, it's just going to be a quick blip, and you'll have it on your local machine. You need to go find that executable file. I'll always right click and run as an administrator. And this will kick off this dialog box you see here. This is the installation choice wizard. Now I want you to notice there's 3 boxes here. You can do a basic installation, and this just kind of automates the download and install process on your machine. There's custom, you get a few more options. And then the one we're really going to be interested in is download media. And this will let you download this ISO file. And if you ever need to put SQL Server 2016 on another machine for your uses, then you've already got the ISO and you don't have to go download it. Step number 3, pretty straightforward. You're just going to download the ISO file. So for SQL Server Developer, we're just going to choose ISO right there, and it'll also give you an estimate of about how large this thing is, the size of the file you're downloading. Note the download location, because once this is done, this is where your ISO is going to reside. This is what we're going to use a little later on in the course to install whatever version of SQL Server 2016 that you have downloaded for free.